Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to our channel Mysterious Untold Books. Introduction. Imagine standing at the crossroads of financial decisions, your pockets nearly empty, yet your heart full of dreams. In a world where money seems to flow effortlessly to some while evading others completely, what truly separates those who accumulate wealth from those who struggle paycheck to paycheck? This question has echoed through the centuries, from the dusty streets of ancient civilizations to the gleaming corridors of modern finance. The wisdom contained in these pages isn't merely theoretical, it's practical knowledge tested across millennia. Through timeless parables and stories of ordinary individuals who achieved extraordinary financial success, you'll discover that creating wealth isn't about lucky breaks or privileged beginnings. Rather, it stems from understanding fundamental principles that govern money's acquisition and growth. By embracing these principles of saving consistently, investing wisely, and protecting your assets, you'll gain not just financial security but the freedom to live life on your own terms. The journey to prosperity begins with a single step, the decision to master these ancient secrets and apply them to your modern life. Chapter 1. Start small, the first steps to building lasting wealth. In the bustling markets of ancient Babylon lived Bansir, a chariot maker who, despite his considerable skill, found himself perpetually poorer. One day, sitting dejectedly outside his workshop with an unfinished chariot, he was approached by his friend Kobi, a musician who sought to borrow money. Bansir laughed bitterly, explaining he had nothing to lend, not even the shekels to his name. Both men realized they had worked hard for years yet had nothing to show for their efforts. Frustrated by their shared predicament, they sought counsel from their childhood friend Urker, known throughout Babylon as its wealthiest citizen. Unlike them, Urker had amassed great fortune despite starting from equally humble beginnings. When they asked his secret, Urker shared a pivotal lesson he had learned early in life. A part of all I earn is mine to keep. He explained that before paying for his necessities or indulgences, he first set aside no less than 1/10 of his earnings. Gold cometh gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future, Urker told them. He described how initially this practice seemed difficult, but soon he managed without noticing the difference. Most surprisingly, as his savings grew, opportunities to make this money work for him appeared, creating even more wealth. The friends were skeptical. How could setting aside such a small portion make any difference? Urker assured them that the principle worked regardless of income level. The magic wasn't in the amount but in the consistency and discipline. Wealth, like a tree, grows from a tiny seed, he explained. The first copper you save is the seed from which your tree of wealth shall grow. The sooner you plant that seed, the sooner shall the tree grow. This simple principle, paying yourself first, forms the foundation of all wealth creation. It isn't about how much you earn but how much you keep, and how wisely you use what you keep. By treating a portion of your income as sacred and untouchable, you begin the journey toward financial independence. The discipline required builds character, while the growing savings provide security and opportunity. Remember, every financial empire begins with a single coin set aside. The path to wealth starts not with making more, but with keeping more of what you already make. Chapter 2. Master Your Money, Core Principles of Financial Management. In ancient Babylon, a crisis loomed. Citizens who had once prospered during the building of the great irrigation canals and temples now struggled financially. The royal chancellor explained to King Sargon that while these massive projects had circulated gold throughout the kingdom, that wealth had concentrated in the hands of a few, leaving most citizens with empty purses. The king summoned Urker, the richest man in Babylon, seeking wisdom to share with his subjects. Urker agreed to teach a class of 100 men the 7 cures for a lean purse that had transformed him from poverty to prosperity. For 7 days, he shared his wisdom with these eager students. On the first day, Archer taught them to start diapers of fattening by saving 1/10 of all earnings. For every 10 coins thou places within thy purse, take out for use but 9, he instructed. When one student protested that his earnings barely covered necessities, Archer revealed the second cure: control thy expenditures. He explained, what each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we protest the contrary. He advised creating a budget that distinguished between genuine needs and mere desires. The third cure followed naturally: make thy gold multiply. Archer shared how he had loaned his saved money to Auger, a shield maker who needed capital for bronze purchases. By charging a fair rental interest on these loans and reinvesting both principal and earnings, Archer created a golden stream of income. I tell you, he said, a man's wealth is not in the coins he carries in his purse. It is the income he builded, the golden stream that continually floweth into his purse and keepeth it always bulging. The remaining cures included guarding treasures from loss through careful investment, making one's dwelling a profitable investment, ensuring future income through consistent saving, and increasing one's ability to earn through skill development and diligence. These principles remain the bedrock of sound financial management today. They teach us that wealth creation follows a predictable pattern. First, save consistently, then control spending, invest wisely, protect assets, and continuously improve earning capacity. The brilliance lies in their simplicity and universal applicability. They work regardless of era, economy, or individual circumstances. By mastering these fundamental principles, anyone can transform their financial situation. The journey from scarcity to abundance begins not with more income, but with better management of whatever income you already have. Chapter 3: The Investment Mindset, Learning from Success and Failure. Nomasir, son of Archer, stood before his father after a 10-year journey to prove his worthiness to inherit his father's estate. A decade earlier, Archer had given his son a bag of gold and a clay tablet inscribed with the 5 laws of gold, sending him into the world to make his own fortune. Now, Nomasir returned to share what he had learned. My father, Nomasir began, thou gave me liberally of thy gold and thy wisdom. Of the gold, alas, I must admit of a disastrous handling. He recounted how, shortly after leaving Babylon, he had joined a caravan where two smooth-talking men convinced him to bet on a horse race. Their scheme, as he later discovered, was a partnership with a man in Nineveh to defraud travelers. Nomasir lost much of his gold. Soon after, another misfortune befell him. A young man convinced Nomasir to purchase a merchant's shop with his remaining gold, promising to return to Babylon for his own funds to become an equal partner. Instead, the young man delayed his return, made poor purchasing decisions, and eventually abandoned Nomasir, who was left with worthless inventory and no capital. Destitute and humiliated, Nomasir found work managing slaves building the city walls. Remembering his father's wisdom, he began saving 1/10 of his meager earnings. As his small hoard grew, he sought investment advice from experienced men who carefully evaluated opportunities before committing their gold. Through their guidance, Nomasir learned to invest wisely in ventures with reasonable returns and manageable risks. Through my misfortunes, my trials, and my success, Nomasir told his father, I have tested time and again the wisdom of the 5 laws of gold and have proven them true in every test. These laws taught that gold comes readily to those who save at least 1/10 of their earnings, that gold works diligently for those who find profitable employment for it, that gold clings to the protection of cautious owners who seek advice from the wise, that gold slips away from those who invest in unfamiliar ventures, and that gold flees from those who pursue impossible earnings or follow the advice of tricksters. The investment mindset revealed in this tale centers on balancing opportunity with caution. True investors distinguish themselves not by chasing quick riches, but by patiently building knowledge, seeking wise counsel, and making decisions based on proven principles rather than emotions or wishful thinking. They learn from both success and failure, recognizing that experience, whether pleasant or painful, offers valuable lessons. This ancient wisdom reminds us that successful investing isn't about luck or timing the market perfectly. It's about consistency, prudence, and the humility to learn from others who have already mastered the principles of wealth creation. By embracing these timeless laws, modern investors can navigate even the most complex financial landscapes with confidence. Chapter 4. Building Multiple Income Streams Through Wise Choices. Sharunada, a wealthy merchant of Babylon, rode at the head of his caravan with Hadangula, grandson of his former partner. The young man, adorned with jewels and fine clothes, questioned why Sharunada worked so hard despite his wealth. "If I had wealth equal to thine," Hadangula declared, "I would live like a prince. Never across the hot desert would I ride. I would spend the shekels as fast as they came to my purse." Sharunada decided to share his life story. To Hadangula's shock, he revealed that he had once been a slave. As a young man, Sharunada, then called Dubsir, had fallen into debt through extravagance and gaming houses. Unable to pay his creditors, he fled Babylon only to be captured and sold into slavery in Syria. While serving his master's wife Sira as a camel tender, she challenged his self-pity. "How can you call yourself a free man when your weakness has brought you to this?" she asked. "If a man has in himself the soul of a slave, will he not become one no matter what his birth?" Her words struck deep. When she later offered him a chance to escape with the camels, he seized the opportunity. After a harrowing desert journey, Dubsir returned to Babylon with a new determination. Instead of avoiding his creditors, he visited each one, explaining his situation and promising to pay 2/10 of all his earnings until his debts were fully settled. Though some were skeptical, most accepted his proposal. He found work with Nibtur, the camel trader, where his knowledge of camels proved valuable. Month by month, Dubsir honored his commitment, setting aside 1/10 for himself, using 7/10 for living expenses, and distributing 2/10 among his creditors. As he worked diligently and paid consistently, his reputation grew. After 12 months of this discipline, he had paid off all his debts and accumulated savings. More importantly, he had established multiple streams of income through his expertise in camels, his growing investments, and the trust he had built with merchants throughout Babylon. This ancient tale illustrates several timeless principles for building multiple income streams. First, confront your financial reality honestly rather than avoiding problems. Second, create a systematic plan for both debt repayment and wealth accumulation. Third, develop specialized knowledge that makes you valuable in the marketplace. Fourth, build a reputation for reliability and integrity that opens doors to new opportunities. The story reminds us that financial freedom comes not from a single source of income, but from diversified streams built through discipline, expertise, and trustworthiness. By following Dubsir's example, living below your means, saving consistently, and investing in your skills, you too can create multiple pathways to prosperity that withstand the uncertainties of life. Chapter 5. The Long View. Creating Generational Wealth Through Discipline. Kalabab, an old camel trader, sat with his men around a desert campfire. The flickering flames illuminated their sunken faces as he posed a question, a bag heavy with gold or a clay tablet carved with words of wisdom. If thou hadst thy choice, which wouldst thou choose? Without hesitation, the 27 men chorused, "The gold, the gold." The old trader smiled knowingly and began to tell them the tale of Arkur and his son Namasir. Arkur, the richest man in Babylon, had summoned his son when the young man reached adulthood. Instead of simply passing on his fortune, Archer gave his son a bag of gold and a clay tablet inscribed with the 5 laws of gold. He then sent Nomasir into the world with instructions to return in 10 years to give an account of himself. If thou prove worthy, Archer told his son, I will then make thee the heir to my estate. Otherwise, I will give to the priests that they may barter for my soul the kind consideration of the gods. 10 years later, Nomasir returned to his father's house where a great feast was held in his honor. Before the assembled guests, he confessed that he had initially lost the gold through unwise investments and partnerships. However, in his darkest hour, he remembered the clay tablet and studied the 5 laws of gold that his father had given him. Following these principles, Nomasir began saving 1/10 of his modest earnings, sought advice from those experienced in handling money, and invested his growing savings in profitable ventures. Over time, his wealth multiplied. To demonstrate his success, he placed before his father not only a bag of near gold equal to the original gift, but 2 additional bags representing the profits from his wise management. This I do to prove to thee, my father, Nomasir declared, of how much greater value I consider thy wisdom than thy gold. Yet, who can measure in bags of gold the value of wisdom? Without wisdom, gold is quickly lost by those who have it, but with wisdom, gold can be secured by those who have it not. Kalabab concluded his tale by explaining that these 5 laws of gold had guided his own path to wealth. Because I learned these 5 laws in my youth and abided by them, I have become a wealthy merchant, he told his men. Not by some strange magic did I accumulate my wealth. Wealth that comes quickly goeth the same way. Wealth that's tied to give enjoyment and satisfaction to its owner comes gradually, because it is a child born of knowledge and persistent purpose. The essence of creating generational wealth lies in this disciplined approach, consistently saving a portion of all earnings, investing wisely under expert guidance, protecting capital from unnecessary risks, and passing these principles to the next generation. True wealth is not merely accumulated money but the knowledge of how to attract, keep, and multiply it. This ancient wisdom teaches us that lasting financial success requires taking the long view. By focusing not just on immediate gratification but on building a legacy that can sustain families for generations, we transform our relationship with money from one of consumption to one of stewardship. The discipline required may seem demanding, but the rewards, security, independence, and the ability to enrich future generations are immeasurable. Chapter 6, From Adversity to Prosperity, Overcoming Financial Setbacks. Dubsir, a camel trader of Babylon, sat in an eating house with Turker, a young man who had borrowed money from him and failed to repay it. Seeing Turker's hungry eyes, Dubsir ordered food only for himself and water for the young man. As he ate, he began telling his life story, a cautionary tale of financial ruin and redemption. In his youth, Dubsir had been a saddle maker's son who took a wife and established a modest household. Being young and not greatly skilled, he explained, I could earn but little, just enough to support my excellent wife in a modest way. I craved good things which I could not afford. Soon he discovered that shopkeepers would extend him credit. Seduced by this easy spending, he indulged in fine raiment and luxuries beyond his means. Inevitably, creditors began demanding payment. Unable to satisfy them, Dubsir borrowed from friends until they should refuse him. His wife returned to her father, and Dubsir, ashamed and desperate, fled Babylon. He joined a band of desert robbers, only to be captured during a failed raid and sold into slavery in Syria. His new master intended to make him a eunuch, but the first wife, Sirah, intervened, requesting him as a camel tender instead. While serving her, Dubsir complained about his fate, but Sirah challenged him. How can you call yourself a free man when your weakness has brought you to this? If a man has in himself the soul of a slave, will he not become one no matter what his birth? Her words struck deep. When she later asked if he desired to repay his debts in Babylon, He admitted he saw no way. "Stay a slave in Syria, thou weakling," she replied scornfully. This harsh truth awakened something in him. When Sirah later provided an opportunity to escape with camels and provisions, Dubsir seized it. After a harrowing desert journey that nearly claimed his life, he had an epiphany. Die in the desert? Not I. With a new vision, I saw the things that I must do. First, I would go back to Babylon and face every man to whom I owed an unpaid debt. He realized that his debts were his enemies, but the men he owed were his friends, for they had trusted him. Upon returning to Babylon, Dubsir visited each creditor, explaining his situation and promising to pay a portion of his earnings regularly until all debts were settled. Most welcomed his honest approach. He found employment with a camel trader where his knowledge proved valuable, and gradually repaid every copper and silver piece he owed. Thus come many blessings to the man who owneth his own house. Dubsir concluded his tale to the hungry tucker. Where the determination is, the way can be found. This ancient story reveals timeless principles for overcoming financial setbacks. First, acknowledge the reality of your situation rather than fleeing from it. Second, take responsibility for your choices rather than blaming circumstances. Third, create a specific, actionable plan to address your debts. Fourth, communicate honestly with creditors, who often prefer partial payment to none. Finally, persist with determination until you fully recovered. The journey from adversity to prosperity begins with a change in mindset, from victim to agent of your own rescue. By facing financial challenges directly and implementing disciplined solutions, anyone can transform debt and despair into stability and success. Chapter 7. Character and Wealth, the Foundation of Lasting Success. On a dusty road leading to Babylon rode Sharunara, a wealthy merchant prince, alongside Hadangula, the grandson of his former partner Aragula. The young man, adorned with jewels and fine robes, questioned why someone as rich as Sharunara still worked so hard. "If I had wealth equal to thine," Hadangula declared, "I would live like a prince. Never across the hot desert would I ride." Troubled by the youth's attitude, Sharunara decided to share a secret known only to a few. "Did not thy grandfather tell thee I was once a slave?" he asked. Shocked, Hadangula listened as Sharunara recounted how he had been sold into slavery to cover his brother's debt after a tavern brawl. As a slave, Sharunara was marched to Babylon with other captives, including Megiddo, a farmer who became his friend. While other slaves complained and schemed to avoid work, Megiddo offered different counsel. It doesn't make sense to talk of masters beating willing, hard-working slaves to death. Masters like good slaves and treat them well. When they reached Babylon's slave market, Sharunara followed Megiddo's advice, eagerly approaching potential buyers and expressing his willingness to work hard. A baker named Nanane purchased him, and Sharunara threw himself into learning the trade. Not content with merely performing his duties, he suggested baking extra honey cakes to sell in the streets during his free time, sharing the profits with his master. This enterprise flourished, and through it, Sharunara met Aragula, a rug merchant who regularly bought his cakes. "I like thy cakes, boy," Aragula told him, "but better still I like the fine enterprise with which thou offerest them. Such spirit can carry thee far on the road to success." These words of encouragement meant everything to the young slave. Eventually, Sharunara saved enough to buy his freedom, and later partnered with Aragula, who had also risen from slavery to become a respected merchant. Their partnership prospered because both men understood the value of hard work, integrity, and enterprise. As they neared Babylon's gates, Hadangula removed his jeweled ornaments. "I have always hoped to be a man like my grandfather," he said. "Never before did I realize just what kind of man he was. From this day forth, I shall use his key. I shall start humbly as he started, which befits my true station far better than jewels and fine robes. This tale illuminates the inseparable connection between character and lasting wealth. True prosperity flows not from external trappings but from internal qualities: willingness to work diligently, initiative to create value, integrity in dealings with others, and humility to learn continuously. These character traits form the foundation upon which enduring success is built. The contrast between initial appearances and ultimate outcomes is striking. Those who seemed most fortunate at first, the free men who scorned work, remained trapped in mediocrity. Those who seemed least fortunate, the slaves who embraced work with dignity, ultimately achieved freedom and prosperity. This paradox teaches us that circumstances matter far less than character in determining our financial destiny. Remember, wealth that lasts is never merely inherited or stumbled upon. It is earned through the consistent application of timeless principles that both build fortune and forge character. Thank you for listening. Audiobook by Mysterious Untold Books.